everyone, welcome back. This script was started back when I had been planning on doing one big long video essay on my Elsa is autistic coded theory / neurodivergent reading of Frozen thing, and this was originally meant to be separate, just talking about the different arcs for Anna and Elsa, because there are big major differences between the two that really fascinate me, especially since I have seen a few people talking about the two, saying that Anna is the real hero of Frozen in its sequel and Elsa is overrated and people only like her because she has the cool songs, and I have a few thoughts on that. But now that I've broken up the big essay and I'm planning to do that as a series, I've decided to rework the script a bit and make this a part of that. Also, I apologize if I just start braiding my hair during this. I wanted to braid it again after work, but then it tangled and annoyed me. Having it down is also kind of annoying me, and braiding is a stim, so we'll see what happens with my inability to decide if I want it up or down. So, Anna and Elsa have two very different character arcs in the movies. They each have their own different obstacles and lessons to learn, and as a result, they go through two totally different journeys. Yes, they may go through those journeys together, they are sisters after all, and in Frozen 2 they are together for much of the journey, but they absolutely don't have the same sort of character arc. Before I get into that too much though, I do want to note again, like I did in the introduction video for this series, that I do enjoy academic language. That is tied into the critic brain that I developed during my university degree through multiple theater theory courses and theater criticism classes, but I do also want to keep this accessible, so while I will use some academic terms in this, I will define them as much as possible as I go and hopefully not miss anything too major. This will apply throughout the series, and I will try to keep that a thing in any video where I'm talking about academic stuff. That's also part of why my first video for the series was specifically talking about what I meant by neurodivergent reading of Frozen. Anyway, getting actually started with this, we will start with Anna, as she is the one that is argued to be the hero of Frozen and Frozen 2. I am not about to deny that, as it is basically true. A hero is not the same as a protagonist. Those two do often overlap, but the terms are not inherently interchangeable. A protagonist is the main character, the character that we follow. There are stories out there where we could make the argument that a villain is the protagonist. Anna and Elsa are both clearly protagonists, but Anna is absolutely also a hero. She is the one that goes through the archetypal hero's journey, the thing that every high school English teacher loves to talk about, at least in my experience, and the thing that always comes up when people talk about stories like Star Wars that follow it beat for beat. She may not hit all of the steps 100% perfectly as per stereotypes, but enough of the steps and beats are there that it fits. My throat is more dry from work than I thought it was. I am sorry. Talking is going to be a challenge here, isn't it? So, in the first movie, Anna has her call to action when she is the one to feel the need to chase after her sister when Elsa freezes everything. Relatable. I too like to freeze things when I get upset. She meets a sort of mentor or helper in Kristoff, though he is more of a love interest. Grandpappy and the trolls fit more in the mentor and supernatural helper roles, but they come in later than the usual hero's journey trope. As I said, it's not a perfect beat-for-beat rendition of the hero's journey. No mentors are killed off in this movie, unless we count the parents, but they're not in it long enough to really be mentors, so yeah. Olaf is there too, not entirely sure how he fits in as far as the hero's journey trope goes, but he fits the Disney sidekick and comic relief trope. She has a challenge when Elsa refuses to return. Her dark moment where she almost gives up comes when Hans betrays her and says he doesn't love her. And the final conflict comes right after, when she sacrifices herself for her sister, and in doing so saves herself and by extension Arendelle, as that leads to the revelation that love thaws and Elsa figures out how to control her powers with Anna's help, which leads to a sort of return to the status quo but with more ice magic in the open instead of behind closed doors, and there was growth. Her arc fits the hero's journey trope. Elsa's does not in this movie. In Frozen 2, it is technically Elsa that gets the literal call to adventure in the form of the mysterious voice from Ahtohallan, but the beats of the hero's journey are still mostly Anna's. Elsa comes close to fitting more of them in Frozen 2, but Anna also answers the call to adventure. The mentor role isn't really fit by anyone in this movie. I guess you could argue Yelena or Matthias, or even a tiny bit Honeymaren if you count explaining the fifth spirit, but they're all really more exposition. But Anna is again the one that has the darkest moments with getting pushed away by Elsa, the loss of Olaf and thinking her sister's dead, thinking Kristoff ran off on her, and having to make the choice to break the dam, which she thinks of course will destroy Arendelle. She goes through a lot. And then there's their turn home with the resolution. Most things are the same, but now she's queen. She fits the hero's journey trope and is definitely a hero. There is no question of that. But what about Elsa? Is she really just the good songs? No. No, she is not just the good songs. Elsa may not be the hero, but she is so much more than just the character with the good songs, and anyone who says Elsa gets all the good songs is somehow magically forgetting the next right thing and all is found, and I will fight you if you insult Lost in the Woods. The entire Frozen 2 soundtrack is fantastic. Elsa's character arc is totally different from Anna's, and I think that it is just as important as Anna's is. Elsa's character arc is not the archetypal hero's journey, but it's an arc of introspection and self-discovery. Yes, she does also go on a physical journey from point A to point B, but that is also representative of the internal journey that she goes through that she goes on through the stories in Frozen and Frozen 2. I have this bigger and in an easy-to-read font, and I am still messing up today. I need a nap. Anyways, this is something that I will get more in-depth with for the rest of the series with more specific examples. I don't want to get ahead of myself too much here, but Elsa's journey to find herself and where she fits in is something that isn't really seen quite as often for characters in media that aren't cisgender straight males. Yes, Anna's the one that saves everyone, but Elsa's journey of finding herself, figuring out who she is, why she's different, and gaining that self-love and self-acceptance is... lost my place. Gaining that self-love and self-acceptance and finding where she belongs is an arc that I firmly believe is equally as important. As a queer autistic person who has had to struggle and fight for years to figure myself out, Elsa's arc is certainly more relatable to me than Anna's is. And for me, that's why I love Elsa so much as a character. It's not just because she gets the good songs, but because I see so much of myself in the character. And in terms of Elsa getting the big popular solos, that's basically her internal monologue, but in song form. We see Anna figure things out with the help of others, and see her develop with others. Elsa we mostly see on her own. If she wasn't singing, it would be speaking exposition to a wall. Or as I like to call it, what I do when I'm bored at home. And no one wants to see that in a movie. Not entertaining. The songs tell us what she is feeling and what she is experiencing. The music is what allows us to join her on her journey of introspection. We do see this happen with Anna as well in The Next Right Thing in Frozen 2 and in True Love, which is on the Broadway cast recording but was sadly cut from the production later on, which I firmly believe is unforgivable. It gave us more insight to her, but whatever, I guess. It just happens more with Elsa because she is on her own and in her own head most of the time. When you're focusing on a character like that with this sort of with this kind of story arc, you're either going to end up with internal or external monologues or a musical solo depending on what format the story is. In a Disney musical, that's going to be a solo. Anna doesn't get like that unless she's in her darkest moments, so she gets fewer solos. You know what she's feeling without that being needed most of the time because she's usually happy and bubbly and wears her emotions for the world to see. Is Anna underrated? Yeah, probably. But is Elsa overrated and only loved because she gets the good songs? No! Maybe there are a couple people like that, but generally I think no, that's not it. The two arcs are totally different and both are fantastic representations of female characters, and I love that there's a franchise like this with two female characters who are so different and strong in different ways. I love both characters, but at the end of the day, yeah, I'll admit that I do lean more towards favoring Elsa because that is the arc that is personally more relatable to me, and I don't think that's a bad thing. And again, I really don't think it's fair to reduce her to just the good songs. Elsa's arc and Anna's arcs are equally important despite their differences, but also, honestly, I really hope to see more arcs like Elsa's in the future. The more stories around self-discovery and self-acceptance, the better, because that sort of introspection and coming to terms with your identity is something that isn't always easy, and at least in the media I've consumed, I haven't seen it represented much, which is part of why I cling so tightly to Elsa. And more stories with characters like that can only be a good thing. I am hoping that I made my points clear and that this wasn't too much of a ramble. I did get my roommate to look over the script and she thought it was clear, but I do also know that I have a tendency to just go off when it comes to the things I'm really interested in, and when it's projects I really care about, the perfectionism comes out, so yeah. A little self-conscious on this one. I hope I was clear. I am sorry that it got dark around me. That actually happens a lot. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I am really excited that I'm finally getting into the series. I've been wanting to do this since I first saw Frozen 2 in theaters, so yeah. Thanks for watching, and I will see you all in the next video where I hopefully won't let it get dark around me and won't stumble over my words a lot. Bye!